Hey guys, happy Sunday. I hope y'all are doing amazing. Hey guys, happy Sunday. I hope y'all are doing amazing. I promised you I would be doing this more, and I had a very special request to cover protection for empaths, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Here are my best tips I've utilized in my own life so much that you can use in your life to protect yourself if you are an empath. Let's go. Okay, so you guys know that I always rep meditation, right? I'm always like, go meditate, practice mindfulness of breathing, this and that. There's a reason for that. Mindfulness of breathing and meditation can really ground you in who you are, create strength in yourself as a person and your ability to set boundaries and say no, and also bring you clarity on situations. So I highly encourage meditation first and foremost. My favorite to practice is just mindfulness of breath. It's not guided. I'm about to upload a mindfulness of breathing meditation on my Insight Timer profile, so I'll be doing that soon if you guys want to listen to that and learn how to do it. But starting with just adding meditation to your routine can be a game changer and a lifesaver. So number 1, meditate. Beyond that, in terms of actual strategies that you can implement in your life, one of my favorite ones is also a little bit more spiritual, and then I'll start going into the step by step. But something that I like to do, because as an empath I tend to absorb other people's emotions to the point where sometimes I have a hard time even knowing what are my emotions and what are the emotions of the other person, whatever I'm experiencing. I've gotten a lot better at this. Not something I struggle with so much anymore, but it's taken years of practice. So one of my best tips to give you guys is visualization. And so what do I mean by this? Visualize protection, right? And this really works because as energetic beings, this visualization is actually protective, sends a message to our subconscious mind that we are safe. So basically, here's what you need to do. So basically what I want you guys to do is to visualize a shield of light around you, right? And so this has been amazing for me. And as you're doing so, I want you to take 3 deep breaths, repeat to yourself that you are safe in the moment, recognize that you are safe in the moment and that the outside energies can't affect you unless you let them. And as you're doing that, visualize a shield of white or golden light expanding around you. This is so helpful when there's like outside negativity that just is affecting you. You're starting to feel overwhelmed by all the emotions, and it can even be protecting you from your own emotions because you're just allowing yourself to see that you are a being of light and you only will be affected by what you let in. So visualizing this shield, and as long as you need to, is a huge help. And just continue deepening the breath, because that will also calm you down, and it will just send a message to yourself that nothing is going to affect you unless you let it, which is true. We have the power. I think that as empaths, sometimes we underestimate that power. We think that we are told that we are weak because we feel so deeply, but in fact, it's the opposite. We're incredibly strong, we're incredibly powerful. You just have to learn how to harness that power instead of letting, other pieces of being an empath overwhelm you. So meditation, shield. Another thing that I like to say is practice setting your needs and boundaries. A lot of times as empaths, we put other people's needs in front of our own because we can literally feel what they need. So practice in every situation where this comes up, take a deep breath and say, okay, I respect their needs, I honor their needs, but I also need to put forth my own. And holding that space for yourself. You can practice journaling about this as well until it gets easier. But just holding space for yourself like you do for others. And as you go on, as you set your needs more often, it will get easier. But doing this on a consistent basis. Another one, similar to expressing your needs, setting boundaries and saying no. So for empaths, this can be really hard. And I struggled with this for a really long time, right? But it's really important. And sometimes, we don't want to set boundaries or say no because we can really empathize with the person and, they really want to do it. And, oh, well, my needs aren't that important, whatever. I'm sure I'll enjoy it anyway, and let me just suck it up and do it for them, or whatever goes on in our mind. But it's really important that you set boundaries and say no, even though you want to please the other person. Because at the end of the day, just like you love everyone else, just like you're taking in everything they're feeling and loving them, you need to love yourself just as much. So Doing a consistent self-love practice will help you learn to set boundaries and say no. And the same thing with setting needs. The more you do this, the easier it will get. But practice, 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 because it's really important. Another thing that you can do to motivate yourself to set boundaries is to journal about it. So start journaling about all the things that you ended up having to deal with just because you didn't set boundaries, like all the problems that caused you. And start really writing that down until you see how much this affects your life. Another thing when we don't set boundaries is not only are we overseeing our own needs for others, but we're also allowing that, energy to overwhelm us again, which can be very difficult to deal with if we just don't have any sort of shield or boundaries, etc. So writing down all the times that, not doing these things has negatively affected you, and then start writing down all the times that you were able to say no, set boundaries, put out your needs, and shield yourself, and all the good that, this filtered. Once you start setting boundaries, you'll have more time for your goals, and you'll be able to actually craft genuine connections based on, your intuition and what you and the other person really need together. The thing that I really recommend is taking a step back in every situation, pausing, right? So when someone says something that you don't really agree with or want to do, but you end up agreeing anyway, back that up, right? And right before you agree, instead of just saying yes right away, take a pause and take a moment to really think about what they're proposing, think about how that'll affect you, and then also think about, will it really, mess with them that much if I say no? Because we have this tendency to think that, saying no is the end of the world, or setting boundaries is the end of the world, the other person is going to hate us, etc., etc., or, it'll hurt the other person, etc., etc. But these are all in our head, right? You have everyone at one point in time needs to set boundaries and say no, and if the other person would have set boundaries for us, we would respect that, and so for our friendship to be healthy, both sides need to respect the boundaries. And so there is no problem in boundary settings if you are in a healthy relationship. Another thing I want to cover is that empaths not only have a hard time setting boundaries, saying no, protecting themselves from outside emotions, etc., etc. Sometimes we go to the extreme, oftentimes we go to the extreme of actually feeling other people's emotions in life so much that we just consistently make excuses for their behaviors, right? That's why a lot of empaths attract narcissists or energy vampires, because they see someone who feels so deeply and is so caring that they know that if they continue to hurt them or mess with them, that they'll get away with it, because the empath will actually take on that guilt, make excuses for them, and end up being the one apologizing, right? Usually after a process of gaslighting. So this is really important to know, because you might be doing it without even noticing. You might be apologizing for other people's behaviors where you're the one getting hurt. So it's really important when you're an empath in any kind of relationship to be aware of this. Now, one way that you can fight this, and again, is a process, so don't be hard on yourself if it has happened in the past, is to, again, step back, take deep breaths, and realize what is happening, right? So if you see patterns within someone of consistently doing things that affect you negatively, and then, you always end up kind of beaten down or apologizing for them, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, start to notice these patterns. And so the next time, of this person, whether it's your friend, your family member, your partner, et cetera, does something that actually hurts you, and then you're about to, apologize or say it's okay or make excuses in your head for why they did it, take a deep breath and really, dissociate out from that experience and see the big picture. And you're going to realize that what they did was not your fault, and that what they did was actually messed up. And that will help you to set boundaries as well, and to say no. Looking at the big picture and practicing all of these things and practicing self-love are going to help you so much. Practicing self-love is essential for being an empath and normally dealing with all of this mess, because the more self-love you have for yourself, the more likely you're actually going to follow through and not just put other people's needs before your own, which, you can start by meditating. There's so many other ways to do this. Practice, because boundary setting is not easy, but it gets easier the more you do it. You start to love it, because then you have more times for your goals. You have more time for genuine relationships that are intuitive for you and that are healthy. And then finally, shielding yourself, visualization, and just standing up for yourself, and, being an empath, but being an empowered one. Finally, I just want to say that I know that this is not easy, right? I've been there, trust me. Especially if you've been dealing with this people-pleasing, this getting affected by other injuries since childhood, or in relationships you've had that have really affected you, right? It can be hard. However, you also know that it is worth to fight to push all of this away and to find that self-love and to find that strengthening from within for yourself to actually live a quality life. You cannot live your life as a people pleaser. You cannot live your life not saying no, because that can lead to very dangerous places. You cannot live your life not setting boundaries. Doing all of these things in healthy relationships will get you far. And if you can't set boundaries in your relationships, they're not healthy. Know all of this and also know that you are powerful, you're amazing. Being an empath is a gift, and one day you will learn to really harness it and love it. First, you need to learn how to set boundaries. To protect yourself, to do all of the things that we're talking about right here. But once you're able to become an empowered empath, you can do so many things. Being an empath means being a healer. Being an empath means being an intuitive. Being an empath means being claircognizant and clairsentient. Being an empath is a gift, right? And it can seem like a hell sometimes when you're dealing with all of this, right? But once you learn how to deal with it, you can really embrace your gift. Being an empath is one of the reasons that I do what I do today. So I can do a video on these things later on how to really embrace your empath gifts. But right now, you work on setting boundaries. You work on saying no, and you work on protecting and sticking up for yourself, because you deserve happiness just as much as everyone else. I love you guys.